All right, I've muted my Discord microphone, so hopefully you're not getting any weird like echoing, which I always feel like is a problem. But I do need you guys to tell me if you're hearing me. I need to make sure that you have no problems understanding me on Twitch. And if somebody could just say something that you see me on Twitch, that would be great. Can somebody confirm that, please? Do you guys see me on Twitch, yes or no? Seriously, you guys. Somebody say something. Am I still connected? Voice connected, yes. Can you guys see me? Say something, please.
We can hear you.
Okay. I'd like to talk about hair really fast. Then we can get back to some like maybe tertiary data. As a quick, just super quick review, if we want to get any data back, the easiest and fastest way to do it is to sort of mask out the area that you want back. Like, I don't know, maybe his cheek. So I'll mask out the cheek, just as a for example. And then I like to blur my mask. Something to keep in mind is if you have subdivision levels, you can hit the Shift D button to go down in subdivision levels. And each level that you go down will make the blurring that much softer. So at the lower levels, and this is a relatively low level, then it's really going to blur this out. And that's actually pretty cool when you're beaming detail back. Just make sure you go back to the highest level. So I hit the D button to go all the way to the highest level. And then with only, and this is important, with only the scan data back on, I can click project at my highest level. Boom. And now I should get that cheek back. I might have gone a little bit too high because I feel like in the last demo, I think I might have pushed his subdivision all the way up into like 9 million or something. So I guess I should mention, depending on the strength of your computer, you should probably be working on between 1 and 4 million for your head. And so if I'm up here, where am I? If I'm up here at like 9.3 million, that's probably one subdivision too high. I mean, it produces nice results. So see, now I got this data back. I can hit Control H to hide my mask, and you can see I've gotten back the skin data from the cheek. Now, the last thing I want to say about this, is you could even paint this back, right? So if I undo this, and let's just say I want the whole cheek. And make sure again that you're either at your highest or second highest subdivision level, depending. Remember that you can blur this better at lower subdivision levels. But if you're going to go down here, like look at my point count, 581,000. If you're going to be down here blurring a mask, that's fine. Just make sure that you go back up. So I hit the D button to go back up. And now I'm back up here at 2.3. This might be good enough to get all that detail, but I'm going to be a little bit crazy and go up to 9 million. I'll turn off my wireframe. And now, again, make sure only these two are visible. The thing I'm going to do a bit different this time is I'm going to use a morph target. And this is the part I really want to review. I know we did this last class, but I would really like to review this. It looks like there's a morph target stored right now, which is, I mean, I guess I had one earlier. So, but if the slider isn't available, then it's useless. So I don't know. I guess there was one earlier, but there's no slider, so whatever. Click Store Morph Target. Now, after you've stored the morph target, then reproject again with only the subtool that you're reprojecting on. It doesn't even matter if this is in transparency or not. you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. As long as the two things are visible, it doesn't even matter if you tune your mask on and off. That's Control H, by the way. Then click Project. And then this is just going to project all that scan data into the cheek. And I know you're saying, you just did this. Why are you repeating what you just did? Yeah, you're right, I am. But the variation here, or kind of what makes it really powerful, is you don't have to just settle on a simple projection. You can actually paint back in the scan data. And that's the fun part, because you can use the morph brush to paint that data back in. The morph brush is going to look at the difference between the two morph targets. And if you just adjust the Z intensity, then it's really easy to paint the scan data back in. This is going to be the review part. Then from here, we'll go ahead and do some stuff with hair. And that's probably going to be all the time I have. But make sure to continue to work on your scan data. If you don't have good scan data to project from, hopefully you do, but if you don't, then really, guys, look at your photo reference. I cannot say that enough. In fact, I'm so serious about it that I think I'm going to go ahead and load in for his hair some of my photo reference, because I feel like you guys are not looking at your photos closely enough. Ah, there we go. So there it is. This is super noisy, it's super extreme, it's super crazy. It's like, whoa, that's a lot, and it's really kind of weirdly noisy. I don't want that. Well, check it out. We go back down to our morph target. This is in your tool palette. And again, you can click switch to see the difference, right? So switch goes back to what I had before versus now what I currently have. Now here's the fun part. If we click switch, and then go to our morph brush, that's B for brush and M for morph. There it is. Now you should at this point, turn off Sculptris Pro, because we're working with subdivisions. Now, this should now bring back the noise, see? Or bring back the scan data. So all we gotta do is just lower the intensity to taste and very carefully bring back some of that scan data. A very subtle way, because see, now I'm painting the scan data in using the morph brush. And again, if you want to see the difference, you can always click switch to see kind of the difference between, okay, that's where I was, that's where I am now. So that's review. I feel like hopefully that's helpful. If you have good scan data, it should be. Now, if I'm happy with it, just click delete morph target. And then it effectively kind of baked it in. You got to get off now the morph brush, but now I have that additional detail, which I feel like is pretty great to get that back from your scan data. Okay, so there's your review. Now let's do some new stuff. Let's turn the eyeballs back on, because man, that's scary. Super weird looking. Oh, it's because my transparency was on. It's like, why? What happened? Transparency is what happened. Okay, so now I'm back to this. Let's talk about eyebrows. This might be a good time to save your work, because note that I have a head up here at 9 million. It's not ridiculous or anything. If you have a fast computer, this shouldn't be that much. But still, it's not a bad idea to save your work here, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to sculpt the eyebrows in. And this again is probably where I want to bring up my photo reference. The ear could still use a lot of work, I'm not going to lie. Again, photo reference would be pretty useful here, because you can see I'm trying to build up the ear using the scan data, and I'm just starting to run into a wall, because I just don't, even with the texture on, it's hard to see what I need to do here. So yeah, load in some photos. I mean, don't be ashamed to use the photos, right? So. So I have color corrected photos. Yep, TIFF files. Now as TIFF files, it's not giving me a preview. Oh yes it is, it's just taking a long time. So I'll switch to medium just because these are gonna take a while to update. If I don't know if clicking on them helps updating them. And frankly, I don't know if even Zbrush likes TIFFs that much. These are very high-res TIFFs. Oh, seemed to work. Okay, good. So then once I have this, I can either load it in as an image plane, which I still recommend. Notice I've got custom. So I'll select the image, I'm on custom, and I'll click load image. All right. And we can kind of see hair, facial hair, and so on. So here's something really cool and why I like using this plugin. So normally when I sculpt, I try to get in the habit of having the model like next to the reference and sculpting this way. I feel like you get a lot more out of it. But maybe, you know, you're really wanting to get exactly the same angle. You can do that if it's like something, maybe you want to build up the hair. It's a little bit easier for you to see that way. So adjust your model opacity, line the model up. If this is something that you really feel like is necessary, it's basically like making 3D tracing paper. And it's valuable. I mean, it's good, right? So scale down and just get as close as you can to lining up the features. Once you do that, go to your texture palette, scroll down to the bottom, and where we see image plane, just click store view. And that way, if I ever want to get back to this, I can. I'm going to lower my model opacity a lot. So now if I move my model and I want to get back, like I can actually see the eyelid needs to be maybe a little bit more defined. But if I want to move it back, I just simply click on the custom button again. So just click again on the custom button. And as long as you store the view, see, it snaps right back. So this is going to be great for sculpting hair, for example, which I almost want to do, just have some fun with this. Anybody has any questions before I start doing this at all? Nobody does? Okay. So save the tool, save this ZTL file. A lot of people recommend saving the ZTL file at a lower subdivision. So that's something I found over the years that might be useful. So if you hit Shift D to go to the lowest level and save your tool, that's a little bit more stable, believe it or not. Okay. Now I'll go back up to 9 million. I feel like I should be looking at a different reference right now. Yikes. If you're wondering what I'm doing right now, I just want a front view. Like, where is a good front view? I really need a front view. And you might not get a perfect front view, but something that's close. That's the back. Let's skip ahead a little bit. It's 21. So let's see. Oh, this might be good. 6 or 7. Yeah. Ah, 7. The answer is 7. So we get a nice view with 7. By the way, Josh is an amazing airbrush artist. He's been working on a mural of John Lewis. It's pretty impressive. It's coming along nicely. Thanks, Zbrush, for the autosave. Thank you so much. Questions, guys. Who's got questions? Anybody got questions at all? No? Say something, please, if you have questions. So 7 is like a nice front view. And what's cool with this plugin, I call it a plugin, it's really not. What's cool about this image plane function at the bottom of the texture palette is that it has 2 custom views. So if I were to go to custom 2, we'll say, and I like the custom views because I'm not like locked into the front view. So if you click front, then it's going to say this is your orthogonal front. That's the ZBrush's front. And I personally think custom is a little more accurate in this case because in this case front is not really front, is it? It's kind of close, but not exactly. So I select my image, I click load image. This is a huge JPEG, so it's taking a lot longer. Oop, there it goes. And so some of you guys might be like, hey, I want tracing paper. You know, I want the sort of the absolute best. Ooh, this TIFF file, by the way, is so huge, it's lagging ZBrush, just the TIFF file. It's kind of wild. So yeah, you could totally change your model opacity. And there's a zoom function over here. We can actually use this. Let's play with your model opacity a little bit until you line it up as close as you possibly can. Like for example, here now I'm seeing why his earlobes were so huge because he's wearing these big black earrings. And I'm also seeing the shape of the ear much better right here. So if you can get the head lined up, I feel like the scale is off. If you can get the head lined up as closely as you can, turn on perspective. That's really important. If perspective isn't on, then this is never going to line up. Anyway, do your best to do this. There we go. And once you get it as close as humanly possible, then again, click Store View. So now I feel like, whoops, his head is still tilted down a little bit more. Because if we look at the eyelids, yeah, there we go. Now we're getting closer. That's pretty close. So again, click Store View. Now the nice thing is, I know this is review, and you're probably saying, I thought we were going to do hair, but look, now I can click the custom 1, and I get that perfect lineup. And I can click the custom 2, and I get that perfectly lined up. And then I can kind of start to fix things, like for example, the shape of the ears. Oops. We should probably be on the move topo brush for that. There we go. And so on. Okay, cool. Does anybody have any questions about loading up image reference and using the reference view plugin? You don't absolutely have to use this, but it might help you just to line things up. Nobody has any questions? Anybody? No one? Okay, shall I keep going? Everybody's asleep or ignoring me. You guys are killing me. Okay, let's do some eyebrows. I'll move the model opacity to like 100% and I'll move it over. I'm going to start sculpting these eyebrows. You can turn perspective off in this case, even though I prefer to have it on, generally speaking. I've got my zoom here and I've got my scroll here, and now I kind of have a rough idea of what I want my eyebrows to look like. Now, when I'm sculpting eyebrows, first of all, save the file because you want a version without eyebrows. I repeat, you want a version without eyebrows, so one with and without eyebrows. So you can save the file. Another thing you can do, of course, is save a morph target. So if I hit the D button to go up to, what, 9 million it was? I go back up to 9 million. Now I'm way up here at 9 million. You have two options. Again, it's always a good idea to save your ZTL, but also, since we know about morph targets now, you can make a morph target, because now we know we can basically sculpt our eyebrows back and forth with a morph target. And now let's just try and do it. I actually don't really like using the damn standard for this, but I'm going to start this way. So if we use the damn standard at a size of 1 or 2, then we can kind of just sketch in some of this. Remember, if you hold down the Alt button, what happens? If you hold down the Alt button, you should pull out these lines. So a high Z intensity, a draw size of 1 or 2 or 3, and then again, hold down Alt. Make sure you don't have a mask on anywhere either, so clear any mask you might have. And hold down Alt, and then basically just sculpt your eyebrows in. It has to be at a very high poly. I almost feel like this is not giving me very much, even at 9.3 million. Oh yeah, you're starting to see it. Now we can see it. And then check your reference, right? So I've got my reference back here, basically right next to it. So I'm just checking my reference as I sculpt. Obviously, even at 9 million, I'm still getting sort of dottiness. That means that even at 9 million, the eyebrows are still too low poly. I could push this to 4 times that, 36 million. But when we get up at 36 million, yeah, your eyebrows will look nice and crisp, and your computer is just gonna hate you, overheat and die. What do you have to do for homework? Come on, you guys, what do you have to do for homework? Say something. Oh, man. Hit F for fit. If you need to turn up the intensity even more, don't be shy about it. And yeah, I'm just sketching this lightly, but still try to have your reference up. Sculpt with your reference next to it as much as you can. If you want to use a slightly larger brush or even more intensity, why not? Let's go down here to 5 or something and try the other side a little bit. Now, you remember what I was saying about the morph target brush? This is maybe where it would come in handy. So rather than constantly undoing, it's not a bad idea to use the morph brush too. You know, you can still smooth while you work a little bit, but if you want to push this back, your morph brush will send it back to your morph target. So if you've made a morph target without eyebrows, that's good for a few reasons. Because one, we're probably going to add eyebrows later using fiber mesh or some other technique. And also, because if you don't like the work you're doing, you can use the morph target to basically fade the work back. A lot easier than you could erase it. So what do I mean by that? Like, I'm not really liking necessarily how this side is turning out. Maybe as much. So, I mean, it's getting there. But rather than just using undo or erase, which will work, by the way, remember with your morph target, you can switch, right? So you switch back and you can see the eyebrows are gone. Switch back again, the eyebrows are there. But by using the morph target brush, B for brush, M for morph, what is it? MO for morph, and then like make it relatively large, I guess. And then you can see I can just, if I don't like an area, I just push it back, see, with the morph brush. And that's allowing me to just kind of, I don't like this, it's too strong there. And I can just push it back. It's actually a better way to erase it, because it would take much longer to erase it than it would just be to use the morph brush. So yeah. Oops. And that's what happens when you don't adjust your damn standard brush. Whoops. So when you're making hair, again, stay down here at like 2 or 3 or 4, hold down the Alt button, and I'm up here at 9 million polygons, so obviously you need quite a bit of polygons to sculpt your eyebrows. In fact, if you can get away with, what did I say, 36 million polygons, if you can subdivide even another higher subdivision, that's even better. Which sounds crazy, but you really need a lot of polygons for eyebrows to look good. One option also is to make your eyebrows separate objects. I did that earlier with the cartoon head. That's fine, it's a stylistic decision, but I think usually, not always, but usually, if you're making a 3D print, for example, you generally want to sculpt these into the head. But this is like one of those few exceptions to the rules. For like with hair, I'm always like, no, always make the hair separate, always make the hair separate. Yeah, well, again, for eyebrows, here we are with, again, an exception to the rule. So with eyebrows, it might be better, especially if you're making a 3D print, to just go ahead and sculpt these directly in. But we do have a morph target. We can always get rid of them, and hopefully you've saved a file. You might even want to save a file that says something like, you know, eyebrows or something, I don't know. And see, like right here, I feel like I made that too much. And I could try and smooth it out, but that blurs everything around it. So instead of trying to smooth it out, go back to that morph brush. And then using the morph brush actually just pushes back that detail. because it morphs back to the original. And hit F for fit, so you can start to look at the eyebrows from a distance. Some of you might have said, well, what about clay buildup? And you can certainly build up the brow a little bit if you need to. I would turn off the square alpha and either use alpha 1 or alpha off completely. And this is just going to allow you to build up a little bit of volume. So if you need more volume around the hair first, in other words, build up the volume of the hair. And once you build up the volume of the hair, then maybe you want to go back and make your slashes with either damn standard, or I guess it's time to move on to the big boy tool for hair, which is the /2 brush. I personally prefer the /2 brush. Excuse me, where are we? Lightbox /2. There we go. I personally prefer the /2 brush for making hair, even eyebrows. I'll just make a really small brush here, much like damn standard, and then sort of slash away at it. Of course, you don't have to hold down Alt for this, but see, this makes some really nice lines. So now I can slash away at that volume I just made with a clay buildup. And I mean, if you need to make a smaller brush, I suppose you can. Usually the Z intensity needs to go up pretty damn high, but the size of the brush should be really small. And then you can kind of make these lines. If you're making longer lines, the lazy mouse is really useful. If you're making really short lines, then probably turn off the lazy mouse, and that's better. Oops. That one I'll undo. So there you go. Quick eyebrow thing. And like I keep saying, if it's just like a complete disaster and you're like, this is terrible, oh my God, this is awful, don't forget that's why we stored that morph target, and we can just go back to the morph brush and then just kind of get rid of what we don't like. Because I'm warning you now, the morph brush is going to be much better than trying to erase, especially up here at 9 million polygons, which is a lot, right? So it's easier for me to use the morph target brush to fix my eyebrow than it would be to erase that. So it's probably just like look at my reference here in the background. You know, note that there's this very, I mean, his head's tilted down, so that there is that. But there is also this very sharp line, which again, using the morph brush, I can just morph it back and really emphasize that. It's getting there. What time do I have here? Nope. Oh, only 3 minutes left. Oh, great. No problem. I guess that's the end of the eyebrows. You thought I was going to do actual hair? Oh, come on. No, we'll do that next time. The real problem here is sculpting hair versus using something like fiber mesh. You can't really combine the two methods per se. Sculpting hair is great if you want 3D prints or action figures or something along those lines. And then using fiber mesh, of course, will give you a much better result for realism. So again, go back to the morph brush, and then just using the morph brush, let's turn up the intensity a little bit, but using the morph brush, I can kind of push back the areas I didn't like in the eyebrows. Okay, I guess I'm going to stop the stream now because nobody's saying anything. So yeah, there's your eyebrow tutorial for sculpting eyebrows. I hope you enjoyed it. He's got some eyebrows. They're maybe not perfect, but at least you have the workflow now. Yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to stop the stream.